one day you will not be in business. You'll either sell it, or you'll retire, or you'll pass it on to somebody else. So what does that mean to you then?
Welcome to the Business Behind Your Business, conversations to help your business grow and thrive. Hi, I'm Paul Sweeney, founder of Pretium Solutions, chartered accountants and certified business advisors, hosting the Business Behind Your Business. In this episode, I'm speaking with Jim Mills. Jim is the Principal Advisor and Managing Director of Merit Planning Hills. I asked Jim to share from his experience why is it so important for business owners to create and extract wealth from their business.
I'm Jim Mills, Merit Planning. We've been running for about 10 years. Predominantly over that time, we've been associated with working with a range of accountancy practices, providing financial services. And in that space, look, we have worked with all manner of clients, from employees to self-employed people, but we've really over the years, moved towards the small to medium enterprise business owner. And in that space, we've looked at actually the best possible ways for them to extract the profits out of their business, because as business owners, the worst thing that we can do is burn the midnight oil and have nothing to show for it after sacrificing time that we could have spent with family, etc. So I'm pretty passionate about partnering with small to medium enterprise business owners, Aussie business owners who work really hard and deserve to get ahead for all the hard work they put in, and make sure they extract it so they are personally accumulating wealth to put them in the best possible position for themselves and their families. So that's really where we come from.
Great. And so why work with business owners? What's the attraction to business owners?
Well, I think in this country, small business owners is the backbone of Australia. There's no question about it. We are greater in number than the corporates, although they get most of the attention in terms of tax breaks and whatnot. But we are the backbone of Australia. Small business owners, from the corner store guy to the builders and the excavators and all these people that put all their heart and soul into what they do. This is Australia, and I love Australia, and I'm passionate about helping those people because I know how hard they work, and I know how little reward that can result in. And I think that needs to be addressed, and we should be really flying high and feeling good and making sure that we're doing everything we can to put those people, up front where they should be.
Right. And you talk about extracting wealth out of the business. Do you find that a lot of business owners don't pay any attention to that while they're running their business? It only becomes like when I'm ready to sell that I start thinking about how I get wealth out of the business?
Yeah, I think it's the stage of the business and the size of the business. So, you've got a lot of small business owners that just pedal forever. And if the business operations are small, they're happy to take out as much as they can without any real structure around how they're running the show, And look, maybe they'll get to the end of the race and they'll have paid down most of their mortgage, but what have they got to show after that? And I often look at businesses that aren't saleable, and I wonder what will happen to those guys, because they've invested so much of their life. And as you and I know, as small business owners, you sacrifice to make a business successful. So, and really what you're sacrificing a lot of the times is time with your family and your kids as they're growing up, things like that. So that's got a real value to it. So, yeah, I find the bigger the business and the more sort of controlled and organized it becomes, with the more structure that gets employed into it in terms of looking at profits and efficiencies and that type of thing, it's a different game. It's a different game altogether, and at that point, there's a lot of strategy that can be taken into effect to maximize wealth extraction. That's really what it's about. So we're trying to minimize tax as business owners always. That can often mean that on the books, it doesn't really reflect the lifestyle that we are trying to employ to our families. Once we get to a certain size and a certain level of organization, we're able to really do some spectacular things. The less tax we pay, the smarter we are, the more efficient we are. We're able to actually start extracting this wealth, and that's where we come in. It's about how do we extract that wealth in partnership with the accountant. That's generally how we've always worked over the last decade. And then how do we employ that to even again tax effectively start to build to put that person in front, because small business owners are the hardest working people in this country and deserve so much more than what they often get.
Yeah, it's a pity that a lot of people leave it till that period really close to when they want to exit, and there's not a lot that can be done at that point. So, is there any advice you'd give to somebody, say, in the early stages of their business about what they should be doing now to prepare for that future event?
Absolutely, it's planning. It's absolutely about planning, and it's sitting down with a vision and understanding that there's so much more that your business represents than just what you've already done. It's a bit of a vision into the future of understanding the potential for growth and having a belief in that, and then putting it down on paper. The amount of business owners I've met who don't have a business plan, have never ventured into the world of even extrapolating potential profits over the next quarter, etc. So a lot of the really most successful business owners that we work with have started with the BHAG, which you might be familiar with. So the big, hairy, audacious goal, which is a 10-year plus kind of goal of business growth. And then you drill that back to a yearly kind of activity point, to a quarterly activity point, to a weekly activity point, to a daily activity point, and then you have measurements against that to be able to achieve your goals. So in terms of someone starting off absolutely fresh, you've got to have a vision. You've got to have a belief in what you're looking to achieve. You've got to remember why you're in business, and make sure that you're putting all the right protections and structures in place to give you every chance to succeed. And quite often that structure comes way down the track, and you always wish you'd started doing it years before you start employing it.
Yeah, so I guess a lot of guys, when they start their business, they're more focused on just getting those first sales, getting it up and running, making sure the money starts coming in so that they can support themselves. But I think really what you're saying is that that's the point that you start planning about how you're going to extract wealth out of the business, but also what your goal is, how much wealth you want the business to generate. Is that fair?
Yeah, 100%. And it starts down. This is when I sit down with business owners that haven't really thought about the long-term goal. They might even have a vision for the business, but they often neglect themselves. So you might be, say you're 45 years old, you might have a 15-year plan in business and of wealth extraction. And what does that mean? In reality, you start business and you're successful, and all of a sudden there's revenue coming in. You've actually been successful in generating revenue, and there's euphoria, and you feel really, really good about it. And so you work even harder, and you start punching it really hard and sometimes to the point of burnout, and then the cycle can start to dissipate, and at that point motivations start to supersede discipline, which is really what business is about. So in terms of getting it together, absolutely, you've got to start with the end in mind. One of the greatest books ever written was The 7 Habits of Successful People. Is that what it's called?
7 Habits, Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey.
Highly Effective, Stephen Covey, yeah. And my favorite one of that is Start with the End in Mind. And the beautiful thing about that is mathematics does not lie. So if you have a clear vision of what you want to see in 10 years, and you understand what your life needs to be in 10 years, you can absolutely take a number and reverse engineer that back to your activity today, but only with solid planning and solid structure. And that's on the premise that we're going to be able to build business successfully, and it goes in a sort of exponential kind of line. But that's not how business goes, because success today isn't success tomorrow. So you can have a great year and then it's actually like that. So during those times, you need to make sure you've got the right protections in place as well. So unexpected things can occur. One of the biggest issues I've seen with my clients that have had terrible times is partnerships, actually. Of going into partnership with people that they thought were the right people, and may well have been, but there was just something that occurred. Maybe the structure or the organisation wasn't right to allow that to flourish the way it should have. But things happen and partnerships break down, and that affects each of the other, and those types of things. So how do you protect against bad things happening, even physical health, personal health, and people, bad things happening to good people. So all the protections that are potentially need to be considered. This is where shareholder agreements come into play. This is where business succession insurances and key person insurances come into play. And if you remember why you're going into business in the first place and understand what that vision looks like, if that's important to you, then you will spend the time to put those things in place. But you find a lot of people haven't thought about it, or maybe not been talked to about it.
Yeah, so preparation helps, particularly when those unexpected events occur. If you've prepared, you have a plan, you have an idea of how you're going to deal with it, then actually dealing with those unexpected events becomes just part of your everyday business plan. But what we find is that, and again, partnerships, a lot of people don't have those agreements in place. And when things go bad, they go very bad, because you might have a good relationship with somebody at the beginning, but you don't know what's going to happen in business. And that shareholder agreement idea is something we're going to be unpacking in one of our future conversations. We're going to be talking with Frank Law about shareholder agreements and why every business should have one. But you also mentioned the buy, sell, or that risk of buying out a partner if something happens to them. And that's something I'm looking to unpack with you again in another conversation, because I think that's a topic on its own. So it'd be great to unpack that. But I think planning and preparation is what you're saying, that the more you plan, the more you prepare, and you've got an idea. Yeah.
And break it down and write it down. Like it needs to be written down. There needs to be, you need to understand what your company stands for, what your company values are, what you're trying to achieve, what's your purpose. And if you can do all of those things and then have your staff go on the journey with you, you've got the opportunity to build something pretty powerful. You then align, revenue targets that align back to your values and your purpose. You've got a real opportunity to do something fantastic. That's why I love small business, because we're kind of unbridled. When you work for a corporate, it's very easy to become pigeonholed, and you are doing one thing and that's your role and that's it. But when you're a small business owner, it's almost artistic, no matter what field you're in, as unartistic as those fields may be. It's just that level of freedom that being self-employed brings with it, and the opportunity for unbridled success and that type of thing is really, really, really interesting. And as I said, man, this is the backbone of Australia. Yeah. We run this economy.
Yeah. So look, it's important that, I think what we're saying is that your business is part of your success strategy. It supports the lifestyle, supports those things that are really important. But if you don't have a plan in place to look after those things, then you're probably not going to meet those goals. You're not going to have that wealth created as part of your long-term plan, but you're going to get to that stage where you're about to sell your business and it's not going to be worth anything.
Yeah.
So I think the planning is important. So what's the big thing that every business owner should be doing if they do nothing else for planning? What's your one big thing?
That's a really interesting question, because there's so many big things. But the one big thing is to ensure that you absolutely have the end in mind. You can't run a business without a goal you can't run a business with understanding where you're at in the terms of the game, in terms of that particular industry. So start with a really clear understanding of where you're at. Look at your environment, your industry, ensure that you've got the right distribution in place to have the adequate cash flow to re-inject and reinvest to grow. You know, I think actually that was a convoluted way for me to come to my own thinking around cash flow. So I think cash flow actually is the most important thing. Understand your cash flow, ensure that you've got adequate reserves. And I think the COVID time that we've just been through really reinforces that. The companies that have had, you know, we've been in this thing now for how long has it been? It feels so long, but maybe 6 months is probably, and hopefully we're coming out of it in New South Wales, but who knows what's happening in Melbourne. It really reinforces that a minimum of 6 months cash flow in your business is absolutely critical to get through periods like this. And you generally don't see it in the smaller end of town. You obviously, the bigger end of town on the listed companies like the banks, and you know they're obviously have no problem at all getting through this period. But the pain and suffering that a lot of small businesses gone through simply because they didn't have preparation for cash flow. Yeah, I think understanding what we've just been through should turn the lights on for a lot of small business owners. That cash flow and cash flow reserves is absolutely critical. Who knows what's going to happen next, and whether this will repeat itself. But cash flows, I think, is something that needs absolute attention. You know.
Yeah, so you need to manage it, and you need to have a plan. And look, you said that you need to have 6 months minimum, because I think a lot of things can go wrong, and a lot of businesses, they get that profit, they get that cash coming into the business, and they take it out because they want it for their personal, but they don't look after reinvesting their business. So I think it's a long term.
Yeah, and you know, I've had a lot of clients during this period of time. They were caught unawares because they're in different stages of business, you know. But you know, a restaurant owner that I've looked after for nearly a decade, you know, city-based, big rents, and the business owed him money, you know. So at the time of all this happening, in terms of JobKeeper and the rest, which was an absolute godsend to keep the doors open and allow him not to have to put everybody off. When this JobKeeper stops, he's a whole world of trouble. You know, so cash flow reserves are just critical in business, aren't they?
Yeah. So just summing up, so planning is important, having a goal, and actually having an end goal that you're working to, a long-term goal, affects what you're doing in day to day. And I think the best place to start is right now, and you know, make a plan, even a very simple plan of how much money you do need from your business.
And your business growth plans. These are things we can calculate, right?
Yep.
That should correlate with, you know, future personal wealth extraction plans. You know, so at the end of the day, one day you will not be in business. You know, you'll either sell it, or you'll retire, or you'll pass it on to somebody else. So what does that mean to you then? You know, so these are all things that really work hand in hand together. But if all you do is work, take out a standard salary, without any thought to building up your own wealth reserves, you know, it's kind of the same thing. You're not looking after yourself. You may as well be employed at the end of the day, unless you have a saleable business, of course. And that's what a lot of small business owners kind of rest upon, that they've got this golden egg one day that they can sell. You know, but even that's an unknown, isn't it? Because you don't know what the economic environment will be. You don't know what the industry that you're in will look like, or what the multiple of sale or how it will be valued at that time. So, you know, there's no better way to sort of equip yourself than to ensure that your nest is feathered appropriately along the way.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess the ones that you've had a long-term history of working with, the results are going to be better, purely because there is a plan that's being implemented and reviewed regularly.
Absolutely, yeah. And along the way, you know, one of the reasons why small business people financials sometimes don't look fantastic is because we're trying to reduce our income tax, and we all know there's other ways of doing things, but if you're able to extract as you go and then push that money into more tax effective vehicles, whether it's family trusts or bucket companies, to be able to further minimize or to create structures where you're able to generate dividends with franking credits. There is so many things that we can do to maximize wealth extraction from an already tax effective entity like a company structure. Yeah, to actually put it back to the person at the end of the day who's sacrificing that wonderful time they could have spent, doing other things, which for a lot of us means time with family.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
great.
pretty bad. I mean, how do you put a number on that?
No, well, often that's the reason why people go into business is for family and the time you spend with family, and there are sacrifices to make. So the more you can maximize the return from your business, the better the outcome is for everybody in the long run. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So thank you, Jim, for your insights here. It's been great to talk to you, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again in the future. And thanks for the wisdom you've imparted.
Awesome, Paul. Thanks very much.
Jim has shared some great advice with us. You can't run a business without a goal, and your end goal should always be to create wealth for your business. That way, you can have the freedom to enjoy the things that really matter to you. Thanks for listening. Do you have a question you'd like our team of experts to answer? If you do, send your question to podcast@thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. To hear more from The Business Behind Your Business, don't forget to subscribe using your favourite podcast player. Or you can visit the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website.